The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Francis Scott Fitzgerald.
Appendix 6. Does entropy increase?
In 1865, the repeatedly mentioned German physicist and mathematician Rudolf Clausius proposed the hypothesis of the heat death of the universe. By extrapolating the second law of thermodynamics to the entire universe, Clausius concluded that the universe must eventually arrive at a state of thermodynamic equilibrium, or heat death. For a long time, this conclusion shocked the general public and inspired science fiction writers. Physicists, however, dispute it, albeit somewhat timidly. Some argue that the universe is an open system, and therefore the very concept of entropy cannot be properly defined for it. Others claim that even in a thermodynamically equilibrated but infinitely large universe, random local fluctuations will always produce local regions of low entropy. But as you may recall, we already discussed both of these arguments in the Appendix Cosmic Superintelligence. From the chapter on energy and information, we remember that the entropy of a system is the degree of its chaoticity. Thus, an increase in entropy means an increase in chaos. For example, universe System A, in which hydrogen atoms are uniformly dispersed throughout space, exhibits a high degree of chaoticity. To predict the state of such a system even 1 second ahead, we would need highly precise knowledge of the coordinates and instantaneous velocities of each individual atom in that universe. Now consider another universe, System B, identical in volume and total mass. But where that same hydrogen has formed stars, those stars are organized into galaxies, and those galaxies are structured into clusters. Surely you would agree that the degree of chaoticity in this universe is far lower than in System A. Predicting its state in the next second becomes significantly easier, at the very least, because most of its atoms are grouped into stars and galaxies whose trajectories can be generalized rather simply. Therefore, if the Big Bang theory is even partially correct and the universe once transformed from something resembling System A into something resembling System B, then its entropy must have been continuously decreasing. Isn't it obvious?
If you've brought up the Big Bang, then please begin not with uniformly scattered hydrogen atoms, but with the ultra-dense quark-gluon plasma of the Big Bang.
Very well, if you insist, let us connect our paradigm of the great life with the Big Bang. At the initial stage of the universe's formation, when it was merely a boiling broth of incandescent quark-gluon plasma, the realm of energy consisted solely of high entropy energy, while the realm of information was empty. Empty means that life had not yet discovered a single regularity, a single rule, not a single constant. Life had only one single, so to speak, hypothesis, that very same identity operator, me, universe. In the crucible of quark-gluon plasma, unimaginable billions of unique elementary particles came into being every nanosecond, each equipped with the simplest possible model of the universe. The universe is everything that is not me. The uniqueness of these particles lay in their unique sets of properties. Physicists would say they possessed unique sets of quantum numbers. These properties did not allow them to survive amid the enormous random energies of the gluon plasma, and so their lifetimes were vanishingly short. But eventually, after countless attempts, the first particle appeared, whose properties suddenly allowed it to survive in this infernal cauldron of boiling energy. As we recall, This must have been either a dark matter particle or a neutrino. In this way, life made its first true discovery. It found the values of the so-called fundamental physical constants. It felt out the compromise and minimax points that form the fine-tuning of the universe. At that moment, the first law, the first model of the universe, appeared in the realm of information. From then on, the quark-gluon plasma no longer had to probe randomly. It simply began info-cloning this particle. And most importantly, at that same moment, the realm of energy became slightly more predictable. Its entropy decreased, if only by a tiny amount. Within our quark-gluon plasma, particles with short lifetimes could also be born, but in the dense plasma broth, they managed to combine, to merge, with other, not quite stable particles. As a result, new, complex, yet stable, particles emerged, carrying more sophisticated models of the universe. With the appearance of each such particle, the plasma, that is, the universe, became progressively less chaotic. Low-entropy energy increasingly replaced high-entropy energy. Thus, gradually, through the evolution of matter in the realm of energy, new levels of low-entropy energy emerged, while in the realm of information, new laws were discovered and accumulated, optimal values of constants were found, and so on. But let us return to the stars. Have you ever considered that stellar thermonuclear burning is a reaction of synthesis, and that synthesis is always a process of organization, a process of structuring, a process of increasing the complexity of matter? Surely you would agree that the entropy of a helium-4 nucleus, the result of nucleosynthesis in stars, is lower than the entropy of 4 separate independent protons. That means stars are not burning, they are self-perfecting. That is, they are ordering the universe.
Yes, but stars lose enormous amounts of radiant energy, and those are the very irreversible losses that should lead the universe toward heat death.
Not exactly. From the sun's perspective, photon emission is indeed an irrecoverable loss of energy. But for the rest of the universe, it is precisely the opposite. It is energy of creation, because thanks to it, life flourishes at lower levels of the hierarchy. Indeed, stars generate a continuous and unidirectional stream of photons. Continuity and directionality are already far from chaotic. Such energy can be harnessed and used for creation, which at least one planet in the solar system, Earth, has done quite successfully. For example, Earth's plants discovered photosynthesis. They learned to use this continuous unidirectional photon stream. As a result, chemical energy accumulates, complex hydrocarbons, cellulose proteins, fats, sugars, and so on. This is new energy, chemical one, far more intelligent than a simple stream of sunlight. Because this new energy became available, life could develop further and continue to create. Eventually, organisms, animals, appeared that transformed the chemical energy of plants into kinetic, or muscle, energy. Then humans appeared, and thanks to that kinetic energy they ploughed fields, built roads, and populated continents. Later, as we know, humans discovered electricity, dammed rivers, learned to split the atom, that is, they mastered new, far more intelligent forms of creative energy. And all of this happened only thanks to the sun's energy of creation, that very continuous and unidirectional photon stream. Thus, as the energy of creation moves upward through the hierarchy of life, it transforms into increasingly intelligent, low-entropy forms. This transformation requires ever more developed informational support, ever more sophisticated models of the universe. If we accept that all matter, every single one of its elements, is either proto-living, living, intelligent, or superintelligent, then all these countless local entropy reductions at all levels of life's hierarchy together produce this universal globality. Thus we arrive at the conclusion:
all subjective elements of matter are engaged in nothing but lowering their entropy, and from this emerges the global process of decreasing the entropy of the universe.
That may be so, but alongside the self-perfection of living matter, there is also the opposite process, the degradation of non-living matter, and that process leads to an increase in entropy.
True, but as we remember, only the very top, the outermost level of the hierarchy of life can be non-living. All the other levels remain living. There is simply more life than non-life, so life, in a sense, wins. Still, we must admit that life's victories over non-life cannot continue indefinitely, and here is why. Intelligent, and especially superintelligent levels of life inevitably encounter texts that seep down from higher levels of the hierarchy during the process of cognition. For example, they observe the anomalous motion of peripheral stars in galaxies. Since phenomena belonging to higher hierarchical levels cannot be adequately interpreted at lower levels, recall the chapter, Is the World Cognizable?, attempts at such interpretation inevitably produce an inadequate model of the universe. For example, that anomalous stellar motion gets explained by invoking some kind of dark energy. From the chapter Spontaneous Improvement, we know that the process of knowing the universe always accompanies its transformation. Once we learn something, we immediately begin to implement it. Attempts to transform the universe using an inadequate model of the universe will sooner or later lead to accidents and catastrophes. And if such an erroneous theory is implemented by some super-duper superintelligence that has already managed to seize control of, say, half the resources of the universe, then the death of that super-duper superintelligence becomes a catastrophe of truly cosmic proportions. It triggers cascading collapses across many lower levels of the hierarchy of life. Stars explode, planets perish in fire, inhabitants die, their organs and cells perish, molecules decompose, and so on. It is entirely possible that such a great cosmic Chernobyl is precisely that big but not so big bang about which cosmologists and astrophysicists have theorized for more than half a century. Thus, as a result of such an inevitable and lawful catastrophe, some portion of the universe once again turns into dispersed atomic hydrogen. The local entropy level there spikes sharply, and the entire life cycle in that segment of the universe begins anew. The remaining part of the universe stays structured, and info clones its models of the universe into newly emerging subjective entities of the cosmos. It is not impossible that the ultra-ancient galaxies and black holes discovered in the very first months of operation of the James Webb Space Telescope are artifacts of that old portion of the universe that survived the not-so-big bang. But catastrophe may occur not only through misunderstanding, but also, let us put it this way, because of unbridled curiosity. Imagine you are calmly sitting at home, reading a book, when an impudent fly begins circling you, buzzing annoyingly. Note, it's not really harming you, just irritating you with its buzzing. What will you eventually do? Exactly. After knocking over a vase of flowers and vigorously swatting with a rolled-up newspaper, you will finally smack that fly against the wall. And also note, you will not care why that fly suddenly chose this moment to buzz here, though it had been quietly sitting behind the baseboard for weeks. You will not be stopped by the undeniable fact that the fly is a living being, a marvelous creation of nature, capable of doing things you cannot do and will never learn, for example, fly. You will kill it simply because it behaved too annoyingly in your own home. And roughly the same feeling might arise in a representative of superintelligence. for example the Sun, toward an annoying subentity, for example Earth, if that subentity begins to buzz too actively, for example by probing the Sun with radio pulses. Indeed, Earth itself may have been irritated for at least a century by the overly zealous activity of humanity. It is not impossible that current global climate changes are precisely the reaction of our superintelligent planet to humanity's annoying buzzing.
Summary.
All subjective elements of matter are engaged in nothing but lowering their entropy, and from this emerges the global process of decreasing the entropy of the universe. The entropy of the universe fluctuates up and down, but over large, cosmic spans of time it remains a constant quantity.